In the fall of 1977, during the third year of my marriage to Luis, his young and beautiful sister-in-law Gloria, a widow with a newborn, came to our door. Feeling sorry for Gloria, a widow struggling with a child, Luis selflessly gave her half of his salary to support her. When Gloria said she wanted a high-paying, easy job, Luis eagerly gave her my job. Everyone praised Luis as a generous and kind man. I only smiled and said nothing because I knew why Luis was helping Gloria. The other half of the name on his marriage certificate wasn't mine, it was Gloria's. And the child Gloria brought wasn't his brother's, it was the illegitimate child of Luis and Gloria. In my previous life, I worked tirelessly to help Luis take care of Gloria and that child. It wasn't until Luis passed away and Gloria brought the child to inherit his estate, kicking me out with nothing, that I learned the truth. This time, such a good thing won't happen again. I'll make sure Luis and Gloria reunite as a happy family of 3. Later, on the day I received my university acceptance letter and was preparing to leave, Luis and Gloria's scandal was exposed. Chapter 1. From death to rebirth, it happened too fast. I haven't adjusted yet, and I find myself staring blankly at the familiar old buildings and slogans from the past. Didn't I already die? Why am I seeing things from the 1970s and 80s? Could this be a dream? The factory gatekeeper saw me standing at the entrance in a daze and called out to me, "Here to see Luis again?" Luis went to the station to pick someone up. I heard it's his brother's widow. His brother's widow? Ha! What an excuse for those shameless lovers. In my previous life, Luis and I were married for 50 years and were regarded as the perfect couple in everyone's eyes. We weathered 50 years together, and I always believed that Luis loved me just as deeply as I loved him. But on the day Luis passed away from illness, his brother's widow, Gloria, showed up with an adult son and a marriage certificate in hand, claiming to be Luis's legal wife. I, who had lived with Luis as his wife for 50 years, was reduced to being the mistress and a nanny. All of Luis's property went to his legal wife, Gloria, and their son, while I faced endless ridicule, accusations, and scorn. Unable to accept such an outcome, I spat out a mouthful of blood and collapsed. Unexpectedly, when I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the very day Luis brought Gloria and her son into our lives. In my previous life, when Luis brought Gloria and her son home, he explained that she was the widow of his closest brother and needed help. I trusted Luis completely and didn't doubt him for a moment. Luis said Gloria and her son were new to the area and needed money to settle in, so he handed over all the money we had painstakingly saved to help them buy furniture and set up a home. He even gave Gloria and her son our ration tickets for meat, fabric, and grain on a regular basis. The neighbors and colleagues around us praised Luis for being a man of deep loyalty and compassion, and I, kept in the dark, believed it too. Like a fool, I let myself be deceived by Luis, giving away all the money and resources I had worked so hard to save, only for Gloria and her son to enjoy them. I even gave up my job. Later, when the national college entrance exams resumed, I was ready to take the exam, but because of Luis's so-called sense of duty, I wrote Gloria's name on my answer sheet. Gloria used my exam results to get into college, graduated, and was assigned to a prestigious state-owned enterprise. Meanwhile, I stayed home because Luis told me, "I'll take care of you." I spent my life doing chores, taking care of Gloria and Luis's illegitimate child, and wasting away as a nanny. Luis and Gloria were so good at hiding their affair. They never gave themselves away. Not even a hint. I was too naive, too foolish, to suspect a thing. If Luis hadn't suffered a stroke and died, I might never have discovered the cruel truth. The memories are suffocating and painful. Thinking about what was about to happen, I turned and hurried toward the home I shared with Luis. Breathless, I rushed into our bedroom and opened the box where we kept our money. I stuffed all the money, ration tickets for food, fabric, shoes, and meat into my pockets without hesitation. If Luis wants to set up a home for Gloria and her son, he can borrow the money. He won't get another dime from me. Chapter 2. I sent half of the money and ration tickets for meat and grain to my parents through the post office. Then I used the remaining fabric ration tickets to exchange for 4 sets of clothes and the shoe tickets for 2 pairs of shoes. Afterward, I went to a local restaurant and traded some meat and grain tickets for an authentic, pollution-free pork rib feast. Satisfied and full, I strolled home leisurely, carrying my purchases. As I neared home, I saw Luis rushing toward me from the opposite side of the road. Noticing the bags in my hands, Luis quickened his pace and came up to me. "Julia, did you go shopping?" I nodded and held up the clothes and shoes for him to see. I haven't bought new clothes or shoes in 3 years, so I used the fabric and shoe tickets we've saved up to get myself a few new outfits and 2 pairs of shoes. Since marrying Luis, I had always been frugal, centering my life around Luis and his family, even at the cost of neglecting myself. The fact that I had suddenly decided to spend the fabric tickets without consulting him made his expression darken. I put on an innocent, cautious face and stared at him. "Luis, are you upset?" Luis was obviously upset, but now wasn't the time to argue about this. He forced a stiff smile and awkwardly said, "It's fine, Julia. There's something I need to discuss with you. I also have something to tell you." I cut him off before he could continue. "I've been married to you for 3 years, but I've never sent a single penny home to my parents. They're getting older and life is hard for them. So I sent my savings, along with some grain and meat ration tickets, to them." "What?" Luis's voice rose sharply, his face twisting with anger. "That was the money we had saved over 3 years. Luis's salary was decent, and I was thrifty, so we had saved more than 1,000 yuan. Now, it was all gone." I could imagine how much it pained the scumbag. I looked at him innocently. "Are you mad, Luis? Don't be angry, it's all my fault. I know I was wrong. I promise I won't make decisions like this on my own again." Luis's expression was grim, but there wasn't much he could say since the money was already gone. He forced a smile and said, "I'm not angry, but next time, don't make such big decisions without consulting me first." I nodded repeatedly, but inside, I was laughing coldly. "There won't be a next time, Luis. This is the last time. From now on, you and Gloria, those shameless lovers, just wait and see. In my last life, the humiliation I endured, I'll take it all back this time." Thinking this, I asked Luis, "By the way, what did you want to discuss?" "Julia, it's like this. You know my friend Zhao, the one who passed away 3 years ago? We were very close, and before he died, he entrusted me with taking care of his wife and child. So, I put on a supportive expression and said, 'Helping others is a good thing. I support you.'" Hearing my support, Luis breathed a sigh of relief, but what I said next made his face change instantly. "You give part of your monthly salary to your parents, another part for household expenses, and now you're planning to take care of your friend's widow and child. Do you think it's enough?" Seeing his darkened expression, I added, "When we got married, we agreed that I would support my parents since they're old and struggling, and my younger brother is in college. My salary will be sent to them. So, Luis, this household will depend entirely on you from now on." Luis fell silent. "In my past life, I split every penny in half to make ends meet, sacrificing myself to protect his reputation. He used our money to support his parents, Gloria, and their illegitimate child without a second thought. I wore the same patched-up clothes for 3 years while Gloria flaunted new outfits every season. I survived on pickled vegetables and plain congee, growing pale and thin, while Gloria and Luis's child enjoyed fine meals and snacks, growing healthy and plump. In my past life, I was too naive to see through human nature or lies, and I deserved to be deceived and used. But now, given a second chance, I'm no longer that foolish Julia. If Luis thinks he can keep exploiting me like a workhorse, he's dreaming." Chapter 3. After returning home with Luis, I made a symbolic visit to the house Luis had arranged for Gloria and her child. I exchanged polite greetings with them before making an excuse to go buy groceries and cook. Unlike in my previous life, where I prepared a lavish feast of meat and fish to welcome Gloria and her child, this time, I cooked a simple meal: cornmeal porridge, stir-fried greens, and pickled radish. After quickly finishing the cooking, I raised my voice and called out to Luis and Gloria to come eat. Luis and Gloria entered one after the other, carrying the child. Luis was covered in dust. In my last life, It was me who tirelessly cleaned and prepared the house for Gloria, scrubbing and mopping until my back ached. Luis and Gloria had played the role of carefree guests, leaving all the hard work to me. But this time, I had conveniently excused myself to cook, leaving Luis to serve his wife and child. I could only imagine how much Luis, who had never done housework before, was struggling with the task. When the two walked in, they were expecting a delicious feast, but when they saw the cornmeal porridge, stir-fried greens, and pickled radish I placed on the table, Gloria's face darkened. "This is dinner?" I put on an apologetic expression. "I'm sorry, I was out too late, and this was all I could get. Please make do with this for tonight. Tomorrow, Luis can buy some better ingredients to treat you and your son." Gloria, whose picky mouth was notorious in my last life, couldn't even pretend to accept the cornmeal porridge. She stormed off without any courtesy. Luis looked at the dishes on the table and sighed. "Julia, serving guests with this is just too." I shrugged innocently. I would have liked to use better ingredients, but we're out of money. Grain tickets and meat tickets. Just now, in front of Comrade Gu, I couldn't bring myself to admit we're out of money, so I said there was nothing available outside. "Unless you want to borrow money and buy more, I could cook something better." Luis didn't go borrow money at this time. It wasn't easy to find someone willing to lend. He was already exhausted from cleaning the house for Gloria and her child. "Julia, Gloria's place isn't fully cleaned yet. Maybe you could." I cut him off directly. "I twisted my back earlier. It hurts terribly. I could barely cook this dinner as it is. I'm planning to take tomorrow off from work." Rejected by me. Luis left looking disappointed. In my past life, I would have panicked at the sight of Luis's disappointed face. I loved Luis and prioritized him in everything. Luis assumed I would once again take everything upon myself to help him care for Gloria and her child. Just like before, he was sorely mistaken. If they didn't want to eat the cornmeal porridge and greens, I would save it for breakfast the next day to serve them again, without me scrubbing and cleaning tirelessly, making the beds and tidying up for Gloria. Luis would have to do all the work himself. Luis was an office engineer at his workplace, and after marrying me, I took care of all the housework. Now suddenly faced with heavy, dirty labor, he couldn't handle it. Luis didn't mop and scrub like I did in my past life. Instead, he barely did a cursory sweep of Gloria's place before calling it done. After finishing my own chores, I quietly went to eavesdrop by the wall. Sure enough, I heard Gloria complaining. "That's it? The room is still so dirty. The wardrobe and cabinets haven't even been cleaned, and the bedding is all old. How am I supposed to live here with Lucas?" Luis, in no mood to be patient, snapped. "Isn't this fine? If other people can live here, why can't you?" "It's not that we can't live here. It's just, why is it different this time? It wasn't like this before." Gloria's words made my heart skip a beat. What did she mean by "it wasn't like this before"? What before was she talking about? Chapter 4. Luis was utterly exhausted and didn't catch the deeper meaning behind Gloria's words. Irritated, he snapped back. "What's different? You were living just fine over there. I told you not to come, but you insisted. Now that you're here, you'd better deal with it." Seeing Luis's bad attitude, Gloria forced a smile. "I was just worried about you missing your son. A child can't grow up without his father. He needs to live with his biological father to grow up smart." "Shut up." Luis lowered his voice. "Do you have a death wish saying things like that? You can't talk about this. There's no one else here. It's just the two of us. So I'm saying it now. I know better than to say it outside." "But Luis, why didn't you get new furniture for me and Lucas?" "I don't care about myself. But Lucas is your flesh and blood. How could you let him suffer with these old, shabby things?" Luis was silent for a moment before answering. "There's no money left." "How can there be no money? Didn't you save over 1,000 yuan? Luis looked at Gloria. "What 1,000 yuan? How do you know I saved over 1,000 yuan? Gloria gave an awkward laugh. "I just guessed. After all, your salary isn't low, and Julia's income is decent too. You've been married for 3 years, so you must have saved a lot, right?" "Save what? There are so many people asking for money, my parents, you, and Lucas. It's like dealing with a bunch of vampires. sucking me dry every day. Let me tell you this, you insisted on coming here. So don't complain about how hard life is. Things aren't like they used to be. I didn't listen any further and quietly turned back toward home. As I walked, I reflected on Gloria and Luis's conversation. Gloria mentioned that things aren't like they used to be. She also knew about the 1,000 yuan that Luis and I had saved. How did she know? Could it be Gloria was also reborn? Chapter 5. By the time Luis came back, I was already in bed. When he entered, I closed my eyes and pretended to be asleep. Ignoring him, Luis slid into bed and wrapped his arms around me from behind. Speaking softly, Julia, let's have a child. In my past life, having a child with Luis was my biggest dream. During our 50 years of marriage, I was never able to conceive. In those days, a woman who couldn't have children was doomed to be seen as inferior. I think the main reason I was so submissive and obedient to Luis in my past life was because I couldn't have children. Luis never treated me poorly because of it, or so I thought. On the surface, Luis was good to me. When his mother scolded me, calling me a useless hen that couldn't lay eggs, he would stand up for me. So, I believed Luis cared about me. I thought his care for Gloria and her son was simply a sign of his kind heart. When Luis's mother constantly berated me, I had once suggested separating. Luis told me he would never leave me, that he didn't need children, and that I was enough for him. I believed him. I was so touched that I swore I'd do anything for him, no matter how difficult. But it was all lies. Luis had already married Gloria in secret and had a child of his own with her. Thinking back to the pain and despair I felt when I discovered the truth in my past life, I pushed Luis's wandering hands off me. I'm not feeling well. Let's get some rest early. I had never refused Luis in this way before. This was the first time. I could feel his stunned gaze on my back. I didn't care what Luis was thinking. I pulled the blanket tighter around myself, creating a one-person gap between us, and prepared to sleep. Suddenly, I heard Gloria scream outside. Luis jumped out of bed, didn't even put on his shoes, and ran out. He didn't come back that night. I didn't bother to check. Most likely, he was with Gloria, indulging in their little secret affair. It wasn't exactly news to me. The next morning, I got up to find Luis sitting in the living room, his face dark and brooding, yawning. I asked, "What's for breakfast?" "The cornmeal porridge from last night is still here. Should we just have that?" Luis suddenly stood up and kicked a chair, causing a loud crash. I turned to him. "Who upset you?" Luis's face was grim as he asked. "Julia, I didn't come home all night. And you slept so soundly? What else was I supposed to do? I have work today. I couldn't just stay up all night waiting for you. Could I? Do I even matter to you?" What was this madness? Luis had never asked me such a question in either of my lives. Did he expect me to chase after him like I did in my past life, even after he spent the night with Gloria? I asked him back, "Don't you already know whether you matter to me or not?" In my past life, Julia's entire world revolved around Luis. She worried about him being cold or hungry and overanalyzed every frown he made. That foolish Julia deserved the heartbreaking betrayal she experienced. This Julia wouldn't be so naive. With no emotion, I began heating up the cornmeal porridge. Seeing my cold attitude, Luis slammed the door and left. With him gone, I didn't bother reheating it anymore. I packed up my things, ready to leave as well. But before I could, Gloria arrived with her son in her arms, holding freshly steamed buns and soy milk. She looked at me with a smug smile and said sarcastically, "Sis-in-law, why are you eating that first thing in the morning? Luis really doesn't take care of you, does he? He bought buns, fried dough sticks, and soy milk for me and Lucas but left you to eat this pig food." Chapter 6. The provocation in Gloria's eyes was as clear as day. Without a word, I snatched the steamed buns and soy milk from her hands and started eating them right away. As I ate, I began walking out. Gloria hadn't expected me to pull such a move and was furious. She chased after me, shouting, "Give me back my steamed buns and soy milk. These were bought with Luis's money. Why should I give them back to you?" I shot back. "They were meant for me and Lucas. There's none for you." "Well, I don't believe that. I'm Luis's wife. If he doesn't buy food for me but buys it for you, What kind of nonsense is that? Raising my voice, I shouted, drawing attention from passers-by heading to work. They all stopped to watch the commotion, putting on a pitiful expression. I continued loudly, as his brother's wife, you should know your boundaries. Shouldn't you? Dragging him away in the middle of the night so he doesn't come home. And now in the morning, he's buying you breakfast? I've been married to Luis for 3 years, and I've never received this kind of treatment. Let's let everyone judge if Luis spent money to buy this breakfast. Why can you eat it? But I can't? Gloria's face turned bright red as she stammered. Unable to respond, I pressed on. If you want to eat the buns Luis bought, go ahead. Everyone knows Luis is a kind-hearted man who loves helping others. But how could you bring the buns over to flaunt and insult me by saying eating cornmeal is like eating pig food? As I shouted, murmurs and discussions broke out around us. What kind of person is this? Isn't she just a shameless freeloader, eating the husband's food and then showing off to insult the wife? Who does that? A widow with a child coming to rely on Luis? What's going on here? Who knows? These days, even blood brothers keep their accounts clear. Nobody's family is that well off, let alone taking in outsiders. Exactly. Seeking help is one thing, but flaunting and bullying? Where's the sense in that? It's only because Julia is kind and soft-spoken. If it were me, and my husband brought some strange woman home, I'd slap them both without hesitation. The surrounding chatter grew louder, and Gloria, her face stiff with embarrassment, slammed the door shut, smirking. I continued eating the steamed buns and soy milk as I walked to work, with so many people having witnessed the argument. The gossip-loving aunties came to me during lunch, eager to probe for details. I told them everything. Truthfully, Luis said she's the wife of his best friend, who passed away. She's pitiful, dragging her child along, so she came to rely on him. Gloria's spoiled and refuses to eat coarse grains, so kind-hearted Luis bought her breakfast. Oh, and last night, because she was scared, Luis stayed over to keep her company. Luis really is such a good man. The gossipers looked at me with eyes full of sympathy and curiosity. I knew it wouldn't take long for the story about Luis buying breakfast for a widow and staying with her overnight to spread through the entire neighborhood. I couldn't wait. After work, I made sure to have a good meal outside before leisurely heading home. From a distance, I saw Gloria standing outside with her child, glancing around anxiously. When she saw me coming back empty-handed, her expression twisted as if she had swallowed something bitter. Julia, you're back too, aren't you? Chapter 7. My heart skipped a beat, but I kept a confused look on my face. What are you talking about? I don't understand a word. Stop pretending. You must have come back too. Otherwise, you wouldn't be doing all these things. Gloria glared at me with a vicious expression. In the last life, things weren't like this. You didn't send all the money to your parents. You didn't serve me such awful meals. And you certainly didn't humiliate me and Luis in public. So, Julia, you've been reborn. Just like me. You're trying to take revenge on Luis and me for what happened in your last life, aren't you? I looked at the frantic Gloria and continued to feign ignorance. What are you even saying? I don't understand a single word. What is your last life? What revenge? I pointed to her head. Is something wrong with your brain? Noticing Luis's figure returning in the distance, I raised my voice. Luis, you're back just in time. Take her to see a doctor. She's saying all sorts of nonsense to me, and it's really scary. Gloria immediately stopped our conversation when Luis approached. I glanced at him, noticing that he also came back empty-handed. Luis, didn't you buy any groceries? Then what are we eating tonight? Cornmeal porridge again? Luis's face turned an ugly shade of green, while Gloria started crying dramatically. Luis, I'm causing you so much trouble. Sister-in-law is slandering you and me, spreading rumors everywhere to ruin our reputations. I can't go on living like this. Gloria hugged her child and ran off sobbing, and Luis left me to chase after her. I had no time to watch their ridiculous performance, so I went back inside to wash up and rest. This time, Luis was gone for quite a while, not returning until 10 p.m. When he came back and saw me already lying in bed, his expression was complicated. Julia, we need to talk. Talk about what? Did she complain about me to you? Let me tell you, it's not what she said. This morning, she came over with buns and soy milk, flaunting them in front of me and calling my cornmeal porridge pig food. I got mad and grabbed the buns and said some harsh words. I admit I overreacted. But who told her to provoke me like that? You're my husband, aren't you? Hearing my explanation, Luis's expression softened. Gloria really went too far. Julia, if you're unhappy with Gloria and her child living here, I can ask them to leave. This was a conversation that never happened in my past life. Did Gloria say something to Luis? I feigned innocence. Why would I have any objections? How could I? Helping others is a good deed, isn't it? But Gloria doesn't seem to like me. I can tell she hates me. Luis, please don't let her badmouth me to you. I only have you left in my life. Seeing that I still appeared as naive and trusting as before, Luis was reassured. He held my hand emotionally. Julia, how could I hate you? You're the person I care about the most. Let me explain about Gloria. I owe her husband a debt of gratitude, and helping her and her child is my way of repaying it. Don't overthink it. Besides, Gloria's been mentally unstable since her husband's death, so she says things without thinking. Don't take it personally. His words disgusted me to my core. I pulled my hand away. So, she's mentally ill? Got it. I won't stoop to her level then. For the sake of her husband helping you in the past, you should take good care of them. I'm sure your good brother will thank you from the afterlife and remember your kindness. Hearing my response, Luis's face darkened. After all, he had slept with his good brother's wife, fathered a child with her, and even secretly married her. Anyone would fear being haunted by a vengeful ghost after such disgusting actions. Looking uneasy, Luis quickly changed the subject. Julia, it's like this. I don't want to keep supporting them forever. I want to repay my debt to them once and for all and end things completely. Chapter 8. How will you repay her? I continued to feign ignorance. Gloria doesn't have a job, and raising a child is a big burden for her. Your current job is easy. Why don't you give your job to Gloria? That way, I won't owe her and her son anything anymore. I hesitated, putting on a reluctant expression. Luis was staring at me intently, watching my every move. In my mind, everything was crystal clear. I sighed and said, I'll do whatever you say. If you think that's best, then fine. But what about my life after I lose my job? I'll take care of you. Luis reached out and held my hand again. Julia, I'll take care of you for the rest of your life. He had said the same thing in my past life. Back then, hearing those words filled me with sweetness and gratitude. This time, they only made me feel nauseous. I pulled my hand away from his. All right. It's settled then. I'll give my job to Gloria so you can repay your debt to her. But let me be clear. You need to stay away from her. I have a bad feeling about Gloria. She's acting really strange and superstitious. My words made Luis stare at me for a long time, his gaze strange and unsettling. I suspected Gloria must have said something to him. After all, I was now certain that Gloria, like me, had been reborn. Gloria likely knew how things would unfold and had warned Luis about my changes. That's why Luis came back to test me. Seeing that I agreed so easily without a hint of refusal, Luis was reassured. That night, I lay in bed unable to sleep. Confirming that Gloria had also been reborn filled me with unease and heightened my vigilance. Both Gloria and Luis were shameless, despicable people. Before, I thought my rebirth gave me an advantage to deal with them. Now, knowing Gloria had also been reborn, I was certain she would be watching for any differences in me. I couldn't let anything slip. I had to be extra careful. That's why I obediently agreed to give my job to Gloria. It wasn't just to reassure them. I also had my own plans. As I was lost in thought, I heard Luis softly calling my name beside me. Julia! Julia! I kept my eyes closed and pretended to be asleep, not moving at all. Seeing that I wasn't responding, Luis quietly got out of bed and left the room. I got up as well and carefully followed him. Luis went next door to find Gloria. The two of them stood in the courtyard, whispering to each other. I pressed my ear against the wall to listen. Gloria asked Luis, "So, did she agree?" "She agreed." "How's that possible? So, she's not reborn after all?" Of course not. If she were reborn, would she be this obedient? She would hate us to death, wouldn't she? But haven't you noticed how much she's changed? She wasn't like this in the last life. Enough of this last life and this life nonsense. I don't want to hear it anymore. I'm warning you. Behave yourself. This is a critical time for me. I'm up for a promotion and a position upgrade. Don't cause any trouble for me. Luis's tone was stern, and Gloria replied begrudgingly. Fine. I won't anymore. By the way, Luis, don't leave tonight. Stay with me and the child. I can't. We'll be discovered. Then let's just spend some time together now. It's been so long, and I've missed you so much. What followed was something inappropriate for any decent person to hear. Not wanting to disgust myself further, I tiptoed back to my room. I couldn't help but feel a bit relieved. It was a good thing I had agreed to give my job to Gloria. Otherwise, these two scumbags would have been suspicious of me to no end. Chapter 9. The next day, I went to my workplace to speak with the manager about giving my job to Gloria. The manager didn't object and agreed to let Gloria start working the next day. With that, the matter was settled. That evening, as I returned home, I ran into Gloria at the entrance again. She was holding her child, looking at me with a fake smile. You're back? Did you talk to your manager about the job? I smiled brightly. I did. You can start working tomorrow. Really? That's great. Thank you so much. Oh, by the way, I really must thank you and Brother Luis for everything. He's been so good to Lucas and me. Just today, he said we're both too thin and need to build up our strength. So, he went out at lunch and bought lots of eggs, pork ribs, and brown sugar for us. Gloria still seemed suspicious of me, her eyes fixed on me as if trying to gauge my reaction. I smiled calmly. That's a good thing, isn't it? You're a widow raising a child alone. It's not easy. If you need money, just let Luis know. He should help you out more. Seeing that I didn't reveal anything unusual, Gloria left disappointed, still holding her child. I watched her retreating figure coldly. Did she really think I gave up my job out of selflessness? She couldn't be more wrong. This wasn't a sacrifice. It was a preparation for my future. It was now October 1977, and I clearly remembered that in just a few days, the announcement to reinstate the national college entrance exams would be made. I gave up my job to focus on preparing for the exams. I was determined to pass the exams, get into university, and leave Luis, that rotten man, behind. The following days passed peacefully, without a job to go to. I spent my time going to the bookstore to study and review. 2 weeks later, on my way home from the bookstore, I heard the loudspeaker by the roadside broadcasting exciting news. The national college entrance exams had been reinstated. Hearing this exhilarating announcement, my heart surged with excitement. The moment that would change my destiny had finally arrived. In my past life, after Gloria took over my job, I stayed at home, essentially becoming a maid, taking care of her child and doing housework while trying to study on the side. I had planned to take the college entrance exams to create a better future for myself. But at the last moment, Luis convinced me to write Gloria's name on my exam papers, saying that doing so would finally repay all his debts to her. Out of love for Luis, I agreed to take the exam for her. In the end, Gloria went to university. Luis and Gloria indeed severed all ties after that and never contacted each other again. If it weren't for Gloria returning with her son after Luis's death to fight for his inheritance, I would never have discovered that these two scumbags had secretly built a second home together in another city. All of Luis's so-called business trips were actually spent with Gloria and their son. Thinking about the college entrance exams, my eyes lit up with renewed hope. This time, I would take control of my own life. I would never again sacrifice my future to pave the way for someone else. Chapter 10. When I got home, both Luis and Gloria were there. They must have heard the news from the broadcast and were now scheming together to use me. When Gloria saw me, her eyes were full of calculation. As expected, the moment I sat down, Luis got straight to the point and brought up the college entrance exams. Just like in my past life, Luis asked me to write Gloria's name on the exam papers. I put on a hesitant expression. I don't mind writing Gloria's name, but I don't even know if I'll pass. You still have more than a month. If you study hard, You'll definitely pass, Gloria said, her eyes gleaming with excitement. She knew the outcome. After all, I'll try my best, but if I don't pass, you can't blame me. We won't blame you. Just study hard, and you'll have no problem, Gloria said, practically trembling with excitement. From now on, you don't have to do anything else. Just focus on studying and reviewing. I'll take care of all the housework. Gloria was truly willing to do anything to get into college. I sneered inwardly. Well, I had to thank her for her sacrifice. From that day on, I devoted myself to studying, day and night, while Luis and Gloria took care of all the house chores. Time flew by, and soon, more than a month had passed. On the morning of December 11th, 1977, I entered the exam hall filled with hope. Luis and Gloria even took leave from work to accompany me to the exam. I knew exactly what they were hoping for. Sitting in the exam hall, I picked up my pen and carefully wrote my name, Julia. The exam went smoothly. As I walked out, Luis and Gloria rushed up to me. How did it go? Luis asked. Not bad, I replied, hearing my answer. Gloria couldn't contain her excitement. That's amazing! You're sure to pass. Let's celebrate in advance. Luis booked a restaurant, and we all had a big feast together. That evening was, without a doubt, a joyous one. Whether it was Luis, Gloria, or me, we were all genuinely happy in that moment. Whatever we were each thinking deep down, at least for now, we were all celebrating. For me, I was celebrating the beginning of my escape from Luis, that rotten man. As for Luis and Gloria, I had no idea what they were celebrating, because I drank a little too much that night. I woke up late the next morning, still lying in bed. I heard someone banging on the door violently. Along with the pounding came angry shouting. Open the door! Do you know what time it is? Julia, are you dead or what? Chapter 11. Hearing the shrill, hysterical shouting of a woman outside, I was fully awake. Wasn't that Luis's mother's voice? Why was she here? The next second, her screeching grew even louder. Everyone, come and judge for yourselves. What did I do to deserve this? My good-for-nothing son married a hen that doesn't lay eggs. 3 years, and she hasn't even gotten pregnant. And if that's not enough, she's unfilial too. It's been over a month, and she hasn't sent a single penny home. Now she's even lazing around in bed in broad daylight. Luis's mother's voice echoed throughout the courtyard like a loudspeaker. I got out of bed and opened the door. Luis's mother stormed in like a raging tiger. Julia, why are you still lying in bed at this hour? Why aren't you at work? I heard you gave up your job to stay home and let Luis support you. What right do you, a hen that doesn't lay eggs, have to make my son support you? Luis's mother had never liked me, not from day one. In my past life, she would constantly berate me for not being able to have children. Calling me a hen that doesn't lay eggs was one of her milder insults. When she was in a foul mood, she'd hurl the most vile curses and even physically pinch or twist me. Back then, I thought I deserved it. I believed I was a sinner and didn't dare to fight back, letting her torment me as she pleased. But this time, that wasn't going to happen. I stepped back a few paces and waited for her to pause to catch her breath before responding slowly and deliberately. I'm not staying home because I want to. My job was given to someone else, on Luis's orders. What? Why would Luis let someone take over your job? Who took your job? It's Luis's brother's wife. Luis said he owed her a favor and that we should pity her because she's a widow with a child. So he gave her my job. What kind of nonsense is this? Since when did Luis owe anyone a favor? Tell me that woman's name right now. I'm going to find her and settle this. I felt a surge of delight inside, though I didn't let it show. Keeping my face meek and submissive, I said, Mom, maybe it's not a good idea to confront her. She's just a widow trying to get by. Luis has been helping her out of pity. You said I wasn't sending money home. It's not that I didn't want to, but there's no money left. Since I lost my job, Luis has been giving his salary to her and her child. So, what? Luis's mother wasn't one to let things slide. Hearing that her son not only gave away my job but also his salary to support another woman, her face turned beet red, and smoke seemed to pour out of her ears. They say raising a son is supposed to be a safety net for old age. But I've never received this kind of treatment, not even after struggling to put Luis through college. And this woman? What gives her the right? I'm going to find her right now and get to the bottom of this. Pretending to stop her, I added all the details about Luis buying ribs, eggs, and brown sugar for Gloria and her child, leaving nothing out. Luis's mother's fury grew with each word. Her teeth clenched, and she was practically spitting with rage. That little tramp! Just you wait, I'll deal with you myself. Or I'm no better than a dead woman. Chapter 12. I pretended to stop Luis's mother, acting as if I were trying my best to hold her back, and then deliberately stumbled and fell to the ground, watching as Luis's mother stormed off like she had wheels of fire under her feet, heading straight for Gloria. I slowly got up after she disappeared from sight and followed her to enjoy the show. Luis's mother's combativeness was unmatched. What was about to happen would surely be spectacular. As expected, it didn't take her long to charge into Gloria's workplace. Gloria, completely baffled, was called outside. Luis's mother stormed up to her, seething with fury. Are you Gloria? Gloria recognized Luis's mother. She nodded respectfully. Yes. Auntie, are you looking for me? I'll kill your mother. You little tramp. Why are you spending my son's money? And why did you take my daughter-in-law's job? Before Gloria could react, Luis's mother launched herself at her, cursing viciously and attacking her with both hands and feet. Gloria, utterly shocked, hadn't imagined Luis's mother would resort to violence without a single word of explanation. Her face echoed with the sound of slaps. Her hair yanked down so hard it seemed like it might be torn off. Luis's mother fought like a raging tigress. Gloria, knowing she couldn't hit back and afraid of further escalation, didn't even try to defend herself. Even if she had tried, she was no match for Luis's mother's ferocity. Very quickly, Gloria was left bloodied and bruised, crying out in pain. The crowd gathered to watch but made no move to intervene. They were thoroughly enjoying the drama. I waited until Gloria had taken a good beating before limping forward, pretending to stop the fight. Luis's mother turned on me as well, yelling, "It's all because of you. You barren hen. You're so useless you can't even keep your own man, letting this little whore take advantage." Then, spitting at Gloria, she shouted, "I'm warning you, spit out everything you've eaten from me and give back everything you've taken. Every penny Luis spent on you. You're going to pay it all back. And you're going to return the job too." The onlookers started murmuring among themselves, gossiping about how shameless Luis and Gloria were for having an affair. By the time Luis arrived after hearing the news, the situation had blown up completely, and everyone already knew about it. Seeing the woman he adored beaten black and blue, her face swollen beyond recognition, and surrounded by a crowd of people pointing fingers, Luis looked like he was about to explode with rage. He shoved through the crowd, his face dark and furious, pulling his mother away and dragging her out of there. The whole incident became the talk of the town, spiced up with endless embellishments over meals and tea. Rumors about Luis and Gloria's affair spread like wildfire, with countless exaggerated versions springing up overnight. The fallout was significant. Luis and Gloria could barely leave their homes without avoiding people. Even Luis's workplace got wind of the drama. Luis was called in by his supervisor and given a stern reprimand. His promotion and title evaluation were put on hold, with his boss telling him they'd be watching his behavior going forward. Luis was furious for a long time because of this, though his mother's attitude took a surprising turn. She went so far as to apologize to Gloria, admit her fault, and even took on the responsibility of caring for little Lucas. Chapter 13. I kept quiet, pretending not to notice. There was no need to spell it out. It was clear Luis and Gloria had told his mother the truth. Now that Luis's mother knew Lucas was her biological grandson, her attitude had changed completely. Her behavior toward Gloria and Lucas shifted rapidly. She smiled and laughed every day, constantly inviting Gloria and Lucas over for meals. All the best food and drinks were reserved for Lucas alone, and she was nothing but pleasant and kind to Gloria. But her attitude toward me remained the same as before. She would lose her temper at the slightest provocation, calling me a barren hen whenever she could. She even teamed up with Gloria to pressure me into divorcing Luis. Of course, I was more than happy to leave this group of toxic people. When Luis's mother came to me and demanded I leave, I played along and agreed. I've been with Luis for 3 years and have nothing to show for it. I don't even have a job anymore. You can't just kick me out like this," I said, pretending to be pitiful. "You, a barren hen, have no right to stay with my son. Hurry up and divorce him, give someone else the chance. It's my fault I can't have children. But where would I go after the divorce? I can't go back to my family, they'd look down on me. Do you expect me to starve on the streets?" Hearing this, Luis's mother's eyes darted cunningly. "Fine. We'll give you some money to send you off. Will that work?" Gloria, confident she'd get into university and knowing how well things had gone for Luis in the past life, was eager to officially take my place. So, she conspired with Luis's mother to offer me a sum of money to get me to leave quietly. The three of us started negotiating in private. Luis's mother and Gloria began at 200 yuan and eventually increased it to 500 yuan before I finally agreed. With the 500 yuan from Gloria and Luis's mother, combined with the money I'd already taken earlier, I figured I'd have enough to cover my living expenses during university. After receiving the money, I quickly packed my things and left. But just as I was about to board the bus, Luis caught up with me at the station and stopped me. Luis grabbed me, his face full of panic and disbelief. "Julia, where are you going? Without my permission. Where do you think you're going?" Chapter 14. I was absolutely fuming inside. Why couldn't this disgusting scumbag Luis just drop dead? Why did he have to show up now and ruin my plans? Though I was boiling with anger, I covered my face and started sobbing dramatically. "I can't have children. I can't bring joy to your mother or carry on your family name. I'm a sinner. I have no right to stay by your side. Please, let me go." "Don't talk nonsense. Julia, you're my wife, the woman I love the most. You're staying with me for the rest of your life. No one, absolutely no one, can separate us." This disgusting man dragged me back home from the station against my will. When we returned, Luis's mother and Gloria's faces darkened instantly. I don't know what Luis said to them, but neither of them dared to bother me anymore. Luis's mother didn't bring up the issue of me being unable to have children again. Instead, she directly demanded that I return the 500 yuan to her. There was no way I was giving that money back. I told her I had already sent it to my parents and would need to write to them to get it returned. Using this excuse, I managed to stall for time. Neither Luis's mother nor Gloria could do anything about it, since she couldn't get her son to kick me out. Luis's mother resorted to tormenting me in private. She would point her finger at me and hurl insults. "You barren hen. Useless. A waste of space," she'd shout. I lowered my head and acted meekly, silently enduring her verbal abuse. When Luis found out about it, he was furious. He demanded that his mother leave for the countryside immediately. Luis's mother was actually afraid of him and didn't dare to defy her son. But she came up with another scheme, forcing me to go to the hospital for a checkup. "You're a barren hen. What's the point of keeping you around? Our family doesn't want a hen that can't lay eggs. Go to the hospital and get yourself checked out. If it's something that can be fixed, fine, you can stay. But if it can't, get lost and stop ruining my son's life. I'm waiting to hold lots of grandkids." Luis's mother practically dragged me to the hospital for the examination. When the results came back, everything about me was completely normal. The doctor, upon hearing that I'd been unable to conceive for 3 years, suggested gently, "Why don't you have your husband come in for a checkup as well? Infertility isn't always the woman's issue. Sometimes, the problem lies with the man." Chapter 15. Luis's mother stood beside me, and upon hearing the doctor's suggestion, she immediately exploded. "What nonsense are you spouting? Who said my son can't have children? My son can have children. He already has." She abruptly stopped mid-sentence, realizing she'd said too much. Turning to me, she pointed a finger and snarled, "It's her. She's the one who can't have kids. She's nothing but a barren hen." On the way home, Luis's mother kept cursing the doctor, calling him incompetent and accusing him of talking nonsense. She went on about how I couldn't have children and should just get lost to stop ruining her son's life. I ignored her completely, treating her words like meaningless noise. But inwardly, I was pondering something important. In my past life, I had gone to the hospital for a checkup because I desperately wanted a child. The doctor had told me that I was completely healthy, Yet, I never managed to conceive. At one point, I had suggested that Luis get tested, but he had refused. He had told me that having me by his side was enough and that we didn't need children. I'd wondered before if the problem lay with Luis. But Luis did have a child. He and Gloria had their own son. So, if both Luis and I were perfectly fine, then what was the real reason I couldn't have a child? When we got home, both Luis and Gloria had already returned from work. Luis's mother, emboldened by Gloria's presence, started berating me again in front of her. Gloria couldn't even hide the smug smile on her face as she listened to Luis's mother insult me. Luis frowned and tried to intervene. Eventually, he handed Lucas to his mother, which finally put an end to her tirade. Luis's mother took Lucas out to play, leaving just the three of us in the house, me, Luis, and Gloria. Luis, looking irritated, turned to Gloria and said, "I need to talk to Julia. You should leave for now." Gloria didn't look happy about it, but she left begrudgingly. Once she was gone, Luis walked over and tried to hug me. "Julia, I'm sorry you had to go through that. My mom, she has a sharp tongue but a soft heart. Please try to be patient with her." I forced a faint smile. "I can't have children, so all of this really is my fault." "Luis, your mom is right. If I stay, I'll end up ending your family line. Maybe we should just get a divorce." Luis shook his head firmly. "No way. That's impossible. You're my wife, Julia, and I won't divorce you. No matter what happens, we'll face it together. You'll be my wife for the rest of my life, no one else." Looking at Luis, so resolute and full of conviction, all I felt was pity. I couldn't figure it out. If Luis and Gloria were already married, both in the past life and this one, then why was he keeping it such a tightly guarded secret? Why wouldn't he just kick me out and be with Gloria openly and officially? Why did he keep Gloria and their precious son hidden away? Was it because he wanted to use me as a maid or housekeeper? That didn't make sense either. In the later years, Luis had done exceptionally well for himself, eventually becoming a chief engineer. His salary was more than enough to hire not just one, but 3 housekeepers if he wanted to. So why did he continue to hide the truth from me? I had already given my job to Gloria. On the surface, I had agreed to take the college exam for her. At this point, there was nothing left for him to use me for. Why, then, was Luis still unwilling to let me go? Could it be that Luis actually loved me? The thought was laughable. If he loved me, then why had he secretly married Gloria? I couldn't come up with an answer. Just as I was lost in thought, a piercing scream shattered the silence outside. "Somebody help! Something terrible has happened." Chapter 16. Gloria and Luis's son, Lucas, had an accident. Luis's mother had taken him out to play, but in a moment of carelessness, he ran into the middle of the road just as a car was coming. The driver didn't have enough time to stop. Lucas was hit head-on, bloodied and severely injured, and rushed to the hospital. When Gloria heard the news, her legs gave out, and it was Luis who half carried, half supported her to the hospital. I followed behind them the whole way, coldly observing everything. In my past life, Lucas had grown up safely without any accidents. Why was something like this happening in this life? To be honest, I didn't feel even a shred of sympathy for Lucas. In my past life, I had genuinely cared for him, not knowing he was Luis and Gloria's illegitimate son. When Gloria took over my job, I sincerely looked after him. Since I couldn't have children of my own, I treated him as if he were my own child. Later, when Gloria graduated from university and found a job, she came back to take him away. I had no regrets. I had done nothing wrong to him, but he inherited the viciousness, selfishness, and shamelessness of Gloria and Luis. After Luis's death, he and Gloria showed their true colors and drove me out of the house without mercy. I still vividly remember his sneering face as he mocked me. "You stupid woman, you were nothing but a tool to be used. My mom and dad only ever saw you as a servant, a maid. Now that my dad's gone, it's your turn to get lost." He shoved me to the ground with brutal force. His twisted, mocking expression is etched clearly in my memory. I'm not a wicked person, but I'm not endlessly kind either. I won't waste sympathy on someone who doesn't know gratitude or basic decency. Even though Lucas is just a child now, He's destined to grow into a monster. At the hospital, Lucas was in critical condition and needed a blood transfusion. The blood bank didn't have enough B-type blood and had to request more, while Luis, his mother, and Gloria were all too distraught to pay attention. I caught this detail clearly. Luis is A-type blood, I know that for sure, and Gloria is O-type blood. So how could Lucas possibly have B-type blood? I glanced at Luis, then at Gloria. Suddenly, I realized something. Lucas's appearance, whether as a child, a teenager, or an adult, had never resembled Luis in the slightest. I thought about how, in my past life, the doctors had told me there was nothing wrong with me, yet I still couldn't conceive. I remembered the doctor's words from my recent checkup. Infertility isn't always the woman's issue. Sometimes, the man is the problem too. Could it be that Lucas isn't actually Luis's child? Chapter 17. Lucas was finally saved after emergency treatment at the hospital. Although his life was no longer in danger, he lost a leg and became permanently disabled. Gloria was devastated, and Luis was deeply saddened as well. But the one most consumed by grief was Luis's mother. She blamed herself for not watching Lucas properly, leading to the accident. For a long time, Luis's mother was lost in sorrow. As for me, I couldn't understand their grief or joy. All I could think about was getting into university. I was anxiously waiting for the exam results, counting down the days in my heart. Finally, the results were released. On the day the scores were announced, I went to the admissions office early to inquire. Even though I didn't find the exam particularly difficult, I couldn't help but feel nervous. When I finally saw my score, the weight in my heart lifted. At last, I could leave Luis, the disgusting man, for good. Without delay, I filled out the necessary paperwork at the admissions office and submitted it. It wasn't until then that I returned home. As I approached the door, I heard Luis's mother's shrill voice from inside. Now that this child is crippled, you two should just have another one. Gloria responded, I want another child too. But Luis doesn't want to marry me. I can't keep giving him children without any status or legitimacy. I can't live like this. Luis, say something. What's so good about that barren hen that you can't let her go? In my opinion, just divorce her and kick her out. Then marry Gloria so she can give me a fat, healthy grandson. Luis was silent for a long moment before finally replying. Now is not the right time to divorce Julia. Why not? Why can't you divorce her now? Luis's mother and Gloria demanded in unison. I'm currently being considered for a promotion and a higher position. If news of a divorce comes out now, it'll negatively affect my career. Do you want me to be stuck at the same level forever? So this was why Luis refused to let me go in both my past life and this one? Because of his career and ambition, he kept me tied down for a lifetime? Hearing this, Gloria started crying and yelling. So what? Are you planning to stay with her forever? What about me and Lucas? Luis coldly shut Gloria down. Why are you crying? Lucas is crippled now. If you marry me, you'll have to take full responsibility for him. Do you want to spend your whole life taking care of a disabled child? Luis's voice was as icy as ever, and his words perfectly encapsulated Gloria's current predicament. Gloria fell silent immediately. To be honest, of course she didn't want to care for a disabled son, but she truly wanted to marry Luis. What do you suggest? Then, Gloria asked. I've already said it. I'll continue living with Julia. She can take care of Lucas on your behalf while you focus on attending university. In the meantime, we can secretly have another child. Yes. Yes. That's the way to do it. Luis's mother clapped her hands in approval. That barren hen feels guilty anyway, so she'll do whatever Luis says and take good care of Lucas. Meanwhile, you two can quickly have a healthy child. The sooner, the better. Why not get started in the next few days? Luis's mother was ecstatic, urging Luis and Gloria to have a baby as soon as possible. I turned around and walked away. How could people be so despicable? They wanted me to take care of their crippled Lucas, sacrificing my life for theirs. Meanwhile, they'd secretly have a healthy child and continue living happily ever after. I had to admit, Luis and Gloria had come up with an incredibly convenient plan for themselves. But Luis Not everything in life goes according to your plans. If you want to trap me for life, let's see if I agree to it. Chapter 18. After wandering around outside for a while, I finally returned home at a leisurely pace. The three of them, having already come to their perfect agreement, were sitting casually in the living room chatting, pretending as if nothing had happened. When they saw me come in, Luis's mother did something rare. She actually spoke to me first. "Where did you go?" "I just went for a walk. I heard that the exam results were released today. Did you check your scores?" Gloria chimed in, suddenly reminded of the topic. I replied calmly, "I think it's in 2 more days, right?" "Is that so? Well, don't forget to let me know when the time comes," Gloria said. "Don't worry. I won't forget about you. It's just," I paused deliberately before asking Gloria, "with your son in this condition, are you really planning to leave him behind to go to university? Who are you planning to leave him with? In his current state, I doubt anyone would willingly take care of him. Or, are you planning to send him to a welfare home?" My string of questions made both Gloria and Luis's expressions turn sour. The two scoundrels stammered, "We'll figure out what to do about Lucas later. First, let's see the exam results." I made a deliberate show of concern. "You really should think about Lucas's future carefully. As his mother, it's your responsibility to plan for him, especially now that he's in this situation." I could tell Gloria was listening. Let's be honest, back in my past life, Lucas was perfectly healthy, and even then, Gloria had no interest in being a responsible mother. Now that he's disabled, she'll be even more eager to leave him behind. She'd likely hold back for now, but it wouldn't be long before she and Luis started conspiring again. That night, I went to bed early as usual. Lying down quietly, Luis came in to check on me several times, each time carefully watching me. Once he was sure I was asleep, he left. I opened my eyes and smirked as I listened to the sound of his footsteps fading away. About 15 minutes later, I got up quietly and slipped out. The lights in Gloria's yard were still on, and the gate was slightly ajar. I crept over and pushed the gate open just enough to peek inside. From the window, I could hear sounds that were far from proper. With a cold smile on my face, I turned back toward the entrance, grabbed some firewood, and lit a match. The flames quickly roared to life, thick smoke billowing upward. I raised my voice, sharp and piercing, and began shouting, "Fire! There's a fire! Someone come help put it out!" In the dead of night, my high-pitched cries traveled far. Soon, neighbors came rushing from all directions with buckets of water, storming into Gloria's yard to extinguish the blaze. The fire climbed up the window, and someone kicked the door open in a panic. Inside, Luis and Gloria, completely undressed, were gloriously exposed for all to see. Chapter 19. I stood among the crowd, watching the panicked, humiliated faces of Luis and Gloria. The two of them were barely clothed, utterly disheveled and mortified. After the fire was extinguished, the crowd didn't disperse. No one wanted to miss the drama unfolding before them. I pushed through the onlookers and rushed toward Luis and Gloria, landing a slap on each of their faces. "Adulterer! Harlot! How long have you been sneaking around behind my back? Why do you treat me like this?" Luis, his face red and swollen from my slap, looked utterly shocked and stammered, "Julia, it's not what you think. Really, it's not what you think." "Not what I think? You're both naked and rolling around together. What else could it possibly be?" "Luis, you bastard, you've gone too far." All the hatred from both my past life and this one burst out in that moment. I clawed, slapped, and bit Luis without restraint. Luis's face was soon covered in blood, his nose bleeding profusely, and Gloria couldn't bear to see him suffer. She tried to step in and stop me, but I wouldn't give her the chance. Grabbing her by the hair, I yanked her to the ground. Gloria, now bruised and battered, glared at me venomously. "You planned this, didn't you? Julia, you're such a vile woman." This incident had enormous repercussions. In this era, engaging in illicit relationships was a crime that could lead to imprisonment. Luis and Gloria's scandal couldn't be suppressed. The very next day, Luis was suspended from work and ordered to reflect on his actions. His future uncertain. As for Gloria, who hadn't yet completed her probationary period at the job she had taken from me. She was immediately fired for her disgraceful behavior. Rumors about Luis and Gloria's affair spread like wildfire. People in the neighborhood shared detailed accounts, claiming they had been sneaking around behind my back, even suggesting they met every night while I was asleep. Luis and Gloria's reputations were utterly destroyed. Luis's mother, upon hearing the news, nearly lost her mind. She had been in the hospital taking care of the crippled Lucas when Luis and Gloria's scandal erupted, so she had no idea what had transpired. When she found out that her son and Gloria's lives had been ruined because of me, she came after me in a fit of rage. She still thought I was the submissive Julia from before, pointing a finger at my nose. She cursed at me angrily. "This is all your fault. You wretched jinx. Luis lost his job because of you. How are you going to eat or survive now?" I wasn't about to let her get away with it. As she stood there berating me, I slapped her hard across the face. Luis's mother staggered, dazed, her hand trembling as she pointed at me. You hit me? How dare you? You unfilial brat. I'll report you to the authorities." "Go ahead. I'll be waiting," I said coldly, arms crossed. "And let me remind you," I added with a sneer, "your son hasn't told you, has he? Legally, I'm not even married to him." Luis's mother froze, her eyes wide with disbelief. "What do you mean?" "I mean your son and Gloria are the ones legally married. He's been lying to me this entire time. I'm not even his real wife." Her eyes lit up with hope. "So you're saying Luis and Gloria are actually married? That means they're not breaking any laws? Does this mean his job can be saved?" She looked overjoyed, as if she had found a lifeline. But behind her, I stood with a cold smile, silently laughing at her naivety. Chapter 20. Luis's mother, unwilling to believe my words, went to Luis to confirm. The result? Luis admitted it. He and I were not legally married. She was ecstatic. She urged Luis to clarify the situation and salvage his job. Luis, too, grasped at this sliver of hope and tried to convince me to help him clear his name. He knelt before me, tears streaming down his face, sobbing as he begged for forgiveness. "Julia, the person I've always loved is you. Gloria set me up and ruined me. I was drunk, and she seduced me. She's been blackmailing me ever since, threatening to expose me if I didn't comply. I was forced to marry her." I looked at Luis, his face wet with tears, and couldn't help but laugh. At this point, "Luis, do you really think I'd believe your nonsense? Let me tell you the truth, I've already been driven to my death once by you, Gloria, and your son. Do you think I'd be foolish enough to fall for your excuses after getting a second chance at life?" Luis's face turned ghostly pale. You're really reborn? Just like Gloria? You've also been reborn?" I nodded. "Exactly." Hearing me confirm it, Luis looked utterly stunned. "Impossible. How can this be?" He still tried to squirm his way out of responsibility, stammering, "Julia, I had no choice. I love you. I never wanted to marry Gloria. She forced me to secretly change your name to hers on the certificate. She threatened to accuse me of assaulting her if I didn't. I had no other choice. Please forgive me. I didn't know Gloria would become so ruthless after my death and treat you that way. I really didn't know. Julia, I was wrong." "Forgiveness? That's impossible, Luis. You and Gloria are two of a kind, partners in crime. You deserve each other." Seeing that I refused to forgive him, Luis turned vicious. "Julia, you're just a woman who can't even have children. What can you do without me? Let me tell you something, I tolerated the fact that you couldn't have kids because I liked you. Any other man would have beaten or abandoned you long ago. So what? Should I be grateful for how you wasted my life? I'm just trying to show you how much I love you. Julia, for the sake of our marriage, please help me just this once. Go to my boss and explain that we're not legally married. That Gloria and I are the real couple. This way, I won't get fired. If I can keep my job, I'll take care of you. I promise to take care of you for the rest of your life. Why would I need you to take care of me? I have my own 2 hands and feet. Why should I rely on a liar like you? But you can't have children. A woman who can't have kids is destined to be looked down upon. How I live my life is none of your concern. Luis, let me share some good news with you. I'm going to university. Chapter 21. What? You're going to university? Didn't you take the exam for Gloria? Could it be that you've been deceiving me this whole time? That's right. I already made that mistake once in my last life. Why would I repeat such stupidity? The moment I discovered you and Gloria colluding together, I made up my mind, Luis. I sincerely hope you and Gloria can enjoy your lives together with your disabled son. Before I leave, I'll give you a parting gift. I hope you'll like it. After I coldly rejected him, Luis erupted into a fit of rage, shouting curses at me with words as filthy as his mother's. I packed my things and prepared to leave. As I was walking out, Gloria blocked my path. Julia, how dare you scheme against me, you wretched woman? My response was two crisp slaps across her face, sending her sprawling to the ground. I stepped on her chest and leaned down, speaking slowly and clearly. You'd better not provoke me, or your little secret won't stay hidden. Gloria clutched her face, staring at me in disbelief. What do you mean? What do I mean? You don't know? How about your precious Lucas, how he came into this world? Surely you, of all people, know the truth. Passing off someone else's child as Luis's, weren't you ever worried about being exposed? You two-faced schemer? Panic flashed across Gloria's face, and her bravado evaporated in an instant. To be honest, I wasn't entirely certain that Luis was infertile. I was just fishing for a reaction. But Gloria's complete collapse confirmed everything. How amusing. I kicked her aside and turned to leave. Gloria scrambled after me, shouting, "Are you going to tell Luis?" "Julia, I'm warning you, if you dare tell him, I won't let you off." Even at this stage, she had the audacity to make empty threats. What a hopeless fool. Originally, I had intended to let her stay tied to Luis for life, but her threats made me change my mind. Why should I spare her after 2 lifetimes of hatred? Even a clay doll has limits to its patience. Gloria needed to learn the consequences of her arrogance. Luis and his mother made their final, desperate attempts to salvage his job, but I beat them to it. I sent an anonymous report to the disciplinary committee. The letter detailed Luis's moral corruption and his deceitful, exploitative behavior toward women. The committee took it seriously and launched an investigation. Faced with irrefutable evidence, Luis's unit had no choice but to terminate him. A week later, my acceptance letter arrived. Holding it in my hands, I boarded the train to Beijing. Before I left, I delivered the gift I'd promised Luis. I told him the truth. He was infertile, and his so-called son Lucas was actually Gloria's illegitimate child with another man. What Luis did with that information wasn't my concern. But knowing this despicable, shameless man, I doubted Gloria and her son would have a happy ending. Sure enough, not long after I settled in Beijing, I overheard a fellow villager recounting a gruesome murder case in vivid detail. The man's name was Luis, the woman's name was Gloria, and the supporting role was their disabled son, Lucas. Luis had committed premeditated murder and was sentenced to death, to be carried out immediately. Hearing the news, I couldn't help but smile.